everybody, welcome back to another session of the Hopry. My name is Mark Starr.
And I am sidekick Tim Pratt.
Tim Pratt, man, I'll tell you what, this has been a fun night, man.
It has been.
And we still have the one beer I've been looking forward to the most yet to go.
Yeah.
So by the time you guys are watching this, it should be Friday. I'm going to go ahead and say right now, I'm sure that work's up this week, and I'm glad that it's Friday, and I'm glad to be drinking some beer, even though it's, what, Tuesday? So
Yes.
yeah, it's Tuesday. So tonight we are going to share with you the Fantôme Saison. You know anything about the Fantôme Brewery? Anything about the name Fantôme?
I do a little bit. Again, like to study up a little bit so I don't, sound like a, Missouri yokel. Never. Don't want to do that. But Fantôme actually is French for ghost.
That's why there's a ghost right there.
And for those that may not know, the Fantôme, the brewery itself actually sits on a small plot of land in, again, Wallonia, Belgium, which is, a piece of the Ardennes forest.
And French-speaking, too, I might add.
It is French-speaking, yep. Hence the, French name Fantôme, and it means ghost. And the property, they got the name of the place, and they actually will say that it's a female ghost. I don't know that she looks so much female as just...
She's an angry female.
An angry female with potentially some eyebrows and eyelashes. But they sit next to an abbey, which actually supposedly is haunted by a female ghost. So to, I guess give a little homage to the adjacent properties, they went ahead and named it Fantôme. And this just happens to be their, one of their flagships.
Yep, it is their flagship beer, as a matter of fact. I know that they brew a lot. They have like their seasonal saisons, but for the most part they pretty much brew saisons. That's kind of their thing, and that's good because that's what we've been focusing on this week. And the first two that we've had were both very different. I popped this one a little bit ago, and I'm just again trying to let it kind of aerate a little bit. You never know with these green bottles. In fact, in looking at the bottles that we've reviewed this week, the only one that's not in a green bottle was the Saint Somewhere. And it was really the only one that didn't have some sort of funky quality to it. So maybe there really is a lot to be said for, green bottles. So. Fantôme, should we smell it and see where it kind of stands up to the other two?
I'd say we should.
Let's do it. Nostrils, action. All right, so right away for me, this is, before I even talk about the smell, I got to tell you, man, I really love the fact that every single one of these beers completely different.
Very different.
They're all saisons, but one's skunky, one's real spicy, and this one, it's a little vomity.
I was going to say it's a little bit reminiscent of being in 8th grade and walking to class and finding out that a 6th grader got nervous and puked in the hallway. It's got a little bit of that aroma to it, but it doesn't carry through. And I don't even know how you spin that. I don't know how you say it, but I mean that in a good way. I mean,
it really smells like somebody, vomit. And I'm not even trying to be cute or funny. I mean, it really, people talk about funkiness in saisons, and that is the kind of funkiness that I'm getting out of this beer.
Yeah.
Maybe just a touch of citrus, but I'm getting a lot of, really almost like white flowers and a lot of green things, like green grapes.
Almost tart green candy, sour apple Jolly Rancher, maybe even to a slight extent. Not, I don't want you to be thinking green apple, but it's very tart, very green in flavor. There is a random black thing floating in my glass, but I'll get over it.
That's called the funk.
That's called a spider.
Is that called a spider?
Could be.
Okay, I thought that was called the funk. But anyway.
Tart.
Very tart.
Very tart. Good, but tart.
This one really reminds me of a goose. Now, when I say a goose, I don't mean like you know, a goose is just, I mean, you know, a goose is way over here, and this beer, you know, is kind of in the middle, and then maybe a stout at the other end. I mean, it's very, you know, well, it's Belgian, you know, obviously, you talk about breweries like Cantillon and you know, Drie Fontaine that do a lot of the goose and lambic beers. Of the 3 Saisons that we've done, this one tastes more like a lambic to me than maybe other styles of beers.
A bit of a sour quality that I wasn't expecting, and that is probably its most, you know, endearing quality to me. Other than that, really, I'm quite surprised at how well, you know, our American counterpart hung up to it.
And that's a really good point, you know, and of course, you know, the things that I say on this show and the things that, you know, I've really encouraged him to do is just be very real, you know, because that's what people want. They want real opinions. I'm not here to BS anybody. I'm here to tell you the truth. And, you know, you would think that of all the Saisons that we've had this week, that the American Saison would be the least pleasing. But for me personally, it was the most complex. It was the most interesting. Was it very classic? No, but you know, I really enjoyed it the most. And the one that I saved until Friday, which I thought in my head would be the best one, ended up not being the best one for me. So it just goes to show you, and I say this all the time on the show, don't always try to go out and just buy beers that you cannot get because, you know, oh, there's some mystique in rare, hard to find beers. Sometimes the best beers you can get are literally 2 minutes down the street.
Right in your backyard.
Right in your backyard. And I think that this week has been a really good example of that. I wanted to get your thoughts before we head out on, you know, and reflecting back on some of the beers, kind of the difference, you know, in all 3 of them and how the style should, you know, potentially be the same, but they're all very different.
You know, they are all very different as, you know, as it goes from the black peppercorns that the Saint Somewhere was brewed with to the overall tartness that, you know, that we see with the Fantôme. You know, those are both opposite ends of the spectrum. And then when you look at what we've got with the upside down labeled Le Bon Vu, that one really, I guess, I would call kind of the middle ground with the ones that we had. That was kind of the anchor. And then the other 2 we had swung wildly to each end of the spectrum. I mean, you know, we've got the Saint Somewhere that has so much complexity to it with the black pepper, with the spice that it was brewed with. It really carries through very strong. Back over to the Fantôme, it's very tart, almost sour, as you said, a bit vomity in the nose, but really it's not a bad vomit, if vomit can ever be pleasant.
Well, you know, I think the thing that was very characteristic of all 3, just to be fair, is that, you know, they both do really well from pulling them out of the refrigerator, you know, 5, 10, 15 minutes beforehand, popping the cork on them, and just kind of letting them air out a little bit. A lot of that funk and skunk and vomit and everything that we've talked about this week is very indicative of just a very freshly opened bottle. But if you can open these, maybe pour a glass, let it sit for a few minutes, you know, and some people will tell you should never swirl a beer. Fuck it, I swirl a beer, and I said fuck it on the show for the first time ever. But you know what? It's beer, guys. I mean, I paid for it. I'll swirl it if I want to swirl it. But you know, 3 really good beers. I mean, I'll tell you what, this has been a really good time. I might have you help me out with my McKellar series that we're going to do next week. You know, McKellar is one of my favorites. I'm sure you know a little bit.
I'm a McKellar myself.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks a lot, man. Had a really great time. Thanks for hosting me.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, we'll enjoying beer with other, you know, people who enjoy beer and know how to speak about it is you know, one of my favorite things. So, well, guys, thanks a lot for coming back. My name is Mark Starr.
I'm Tim Pratt,
and we'll see you next time. Cheers. I know, we always have to do the Easter eggs. We're retarded. We're retarded.
I think I just barfed on the school bus.
Yeah.